Hey guys, welcome back to Project Bodybuilding. In today's video, we've got a comparison between Behrooz Tabani versus Hunter Labrada. Behrooz unfortunately could not make it to the Olympia this year. He did everything he was supposed to. He won a pro show. He didn't have any injuries or things like that. It was simply visa issues that got in the way of him making his way to the US from Iran. That's really a shame, especially for someone like Behrooz. Every time I saw him mentioned in a comment or a video leading up to this year's Olympia, everyone had him in a potential top 8. Some had him as high as top 5 or 6. And really, it's hard to disagree. Behrooz has terrific shape and is one of, if not the most shredded guy competing today. He definitely has some great qualities that could have put him above some big names at this year's contest. So since he just did the Romania Pro, placing second to Samson Dauda, I want to take this opportunity and those recent picks and run a comparison or two. I think a good place to start is at the top 6, and this year's 6th place happened to be Hunter Labrada. So not only are we comparing Behrooz against Hunter today, using Behrouz's Romania Pro package and Hunter's Olympia appearance, but we are asking the question as a whole: could Behrooz Tabani have made the top 6 at this year's Mr. Olympia? Let's dive into this comparison to see how close Behrooz may have gotten, or maybe to see how far ahead he would have been of Hunter. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, and if you want to see more of these comparisons, go ahead and hit that subscribe button too while you're at it. Coming out of the gate, Behrooz claims the first pose. You all know I look for two things in the shot: the arms and the X-frame. Hunter may have some good arms. I think they look pretty hard and are pretty complete. I just don't like the way he's posing them. I think he should lower his arms a bit more, but I can't deny that his actual arms are pretty good. Behrooz though has some great arms as well. And hear me out, I actually prefer them to Hunter's. Hunter's arms are really dense and hard, but I love the fullness that Behrooz brings here. They're overall bigger and they're longer than Hunter's while having some really good peaks. So I have Behrooz winning the arms, and he also wins the silhouette aspects of the pose easily. Yes, Hunter has better legs and is carrying more overall muscle, but he has a thicker waist. So while on paper Hunter should be bringing a better X-frame, Behrooz kills him in this area because of Hunter's stomach. Hunter's stomach is just thicker to begin with. Behrooz has so much better taper, but Hunter's abs are also very poor. They're getting better, sure. I've noticed this over the entire year he's competed this year, but they still look a little washed out, and on top of the thicker waistline, there's no way he was bringing in a better X-frame than Behrooz. When you look at Behrooz, you see a superhero. He looks like a cartoon. I'd like to see a little more sweep on the quads, but he still easily has the better taper, X-frame, and overall proportions against Hunter. So with winning the arms and looking like Superman in this pose, I gotta give it to Behrooz easily. The front lat spread gets a lot closer for these guys because this pose is way better for Hunter. The waist, which was Hunter's Achilles heel in the front double, is a little downplayed in this shot. Not to mention, it looks better for him personally since the abs look a lot tighter and neater in this pose. His lats are getting better as of recently too. They're a little high, but he's built them out a lot more and they look pretty good. With the lats and the waist looking tighter, he has a much better V taper than in the front double. And again, the legs are huge just like they were in the front double, and they round out the great taper that he had in the upper body for a great full body X frame. All around, with the improvements Hunter has made, this is a really solid pose for him. I think Behrooz does everything better though. For those eagle-eyed viewers, you'll notice that yes, this is from the 2022 Romania Pro. I don't believe there's that much of a difference between these two shows, definitely not enough to sway my decision. But since this was the only HD photo I can find of Behrouz's lat spread, I'm running with it. Anyway, Behrooz yet again looks like a comic book character. Let's go ahead and start breaking down his pose with the legs first, because I do think Hunter wins again. I like Hunter's legs more, and they're clearly bigger. Behrouz's are narrow, and Hunter's are his best body part. But Hunter's margin is a little limited, not by much, but Behrouz's legs being drier and just more detailed do help him a little. And even though this is an old photo, you know that condition in the 2023 version is just as good. But the legs are where Behrooz stops losing in the shot, because now we're moving up to the upper body, and first we gotta check out that waist. Hunter is better in the front double, but Behrooz is better than the front double too, where he mopped the floor with Hunter. His waist is clearly tighter, several inches tighter, and his abs are again neater. Now let's go up to the lats, and Behrooz wins again. His abs insert lower, and they just have a much fuller look to them. Hunter's don't look as thick as Behrouz's, to be honest. And finally, Behrooz rounds out this pose with those little upper body details. His chest is crazy in this shot. Hunter's pecs look flat and lifeless by comparison. Behrouz's pecs are teeming with detail and are just overall a lot fuller. I even like Behrouz's arms and shoulders more. The arms, for example, look like an anatomy chart. You can see where the brachialis and brachioradialis come into play between the bi and tri, and we can see those clearly separated as well. So Behrooz wins a lot more body parts, and when you zoom out, he's winning the physique as a whole with that amazing X-frame. Behrooz now makes it 2 for 2. Moving to the side chest, I thought Hunter could begin to make up some ground in these side poses. He seemingly has more muscle, and while his physique isn't the prettiest, and that hurt him in the front poses, the added muscle should translate better to these side poses. Honestly though, while Hunter brings a great well-rounded side chest, I have him losing to Behrooz. The only thing I prefer on Hunter is the side leg. It's a bit more balanced and drier looking than Behrouz's. Although, given these pictures haven't been doing Behrouz's conditioning justice, I suggest that Behrooz would probably look a lot better if him and Hunter were on the same stage. But I'm judging what I can see, so I'm giving Hunter the slight edge in the side leg for now. But honestly, it's not a big win. Behrouz's leg as a whole is probably a little bit bigger from this angle. So you may prefer Behrooz here. I'm going to throw Hunter a bone though for the details I mentioned earlier. Where Behrooz wins the pose is the pecs. They're just bigger and more ripped. It's pretty simple. Maybe Hunter is thicker as a whole, but I don't really know because Behrooz is filling out his frame pretty nicely. Hunter unfortunately is just too flat in the pecs to compete. The arm and shoulder for all intents and purposes is also just a wash. Maybe I like Behrouz's fuller bicep, but Hunter is no slouch there, so I really don't think that area needs to come into play. I think Behrooz already won this pose based on the pecs anyway. Hunter doesn't do enough there or anywhere else to make up the margin, so right now he's 3-0. The rear double pose is getting a lot better for Hunter, but Behrooz is already right there with him. First, let's take a look at the lower bodies. Hunter is usually really good here, and he still is. He's balanced, complete, and he was in condition despite what you see underneath these terrible lights. But Behrooz is killing him in condition no matter what the lighting is. And Behrooz measures up quite well to Hunter in terms of size. Honestly, he's got the bigger lower body. His hams have more piano wires going on, and the glutes are more developed and again more conditioned. So Behrooz takes the lower body. Going up to the lower back, I easily have Hunter. Hunter was really shredded here, and he's developing his lats a lot more, and now he has a decent amount of that jagged detail in the low back. Still, Hunter isn't blowing me away or anything. Behrooz has nothing going on there, so Hunter takes a small victory here. Now time for the bulk of the pose, the actual backs, and I have to say, I actually prefer Hunter. Behrouz's back is solid, don't get me wrong, but with Hunter, he has more density. Maybe not more detail, but the look he has to his muscle just presents a more rugged appeal. He's thicker, more dense, whatever you want to call it. Hunter looks like he's just picked up heavier stuff for longer. I prefer that look. I don't necessarily think that wins Hunter the pose objectively, because I actually kinda think Behrooz can be considered more complete. Oh, and for what it's worth, since we analyzed the rest of the physiques, I think the arms and shoulders portions of the physiques can be split between both guys. I think Hunter wins the delts pretty easily, but Behrooz wins the arms. But who wins the pose as a whole? I think 90% of you are going to say Behrooz, but like I said, I personally do prefer Hunter's back, which has to be weighted more in this pose. So to kind of throw Hunter yet another bone here and defend him a little, I'm going to go against the grain and pick Hunter on this one. Even if I did have Behrooz winning, I would say it's the closest pose thus far. So even though I'm going against my better judgment and tapping into my personal bias, I'm not upset about it. I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, and hey, it's at least somewhat close. On the other hand, Hunter really falls off in the second back pose. All of Hunter's graininess and density disappears once he tries to spread his wings. Behrooz actually improves in the amount of detail in his back with this pose somehow. Now he's the one with the superior grain, density, and detail. Hunter's back is now really smooth, and his lats look a little flimsy. He may be just as wide as Behrooz, but his taper isn't as good. So I actually prefer Behrouz's width, even though it's kind of close, because Behrooz looks a little bit more aesthetic with a better taper. Then going downstairs, Hunter again loses the lower body for all the same reasons as in the rear double. So with Behrouz's win in the back and every area encompassed in that, and with a solid win in the lower body, this back pose is decisively his. The side tricep is perhaps Hunter's best pose, and is a much better showing from him from this side angle than the side chest was. I think Behrouz's pose is good. He's got the aesthetics for sure. His pose is streamlined because of his excellent midsection. His side leg is yet again respectable and huge. And the namesake of the pose, the tricep, is decent for him as well. Unfortunately for Behrooz, Hunter just blows the doors off this one. For one, his execution is top notch. Too many people hit it like Behrouz is doing. They just use the same stance as they do in the side chest. Not enough people hit it like Dorian Yates used to do, with one foot trailing behind the other and a little bit more of a twist in the midsection. It really works to Hunter's advantage. The twist makes his pecs and upper body look wider, but creates the illusion that his waist is smaller. The details and vascularity in the chest and the shoulders is also a really nice touch. I also think his abs look the best here out of any other pose. There's still a little bit of distension in the lower stomach, but the abs and waist look a lot better here entirely. And finally, the side leg is also good for Hunter. Now, in this shot, I actually prefer Behrooz instead of Hunter, which was the opposite of my opinion in the side chest, but Hunter is still quite respectable in the balance and conditioning in the lower body. And how could I forget the tricep? It's really no contest. Hunter's is much thicker and actually has striations, which we don't see on too many guys nowadays. With that win in the tricep and the overall thickness he's bringing throughout the entire physique, this pose is a solid win for Hunter for a change. For the abs and thighs, I feel both guys trade off the namesakes of the pose. We all know by now that Behrooz' lower body is a little undersized. He needs more sweep and really just more overall mass on his wheels. It doesn't help that Hunter is right there with some freaky quads to take the win in this area. Hunter's got the mass, he's got the detail. Look at the feathering, for example. Hunter's quads are really slept on. Behrooz has got some good detail and that helps make up a little bit for the lack of size, but Hunter takes a decent sized victory in the legs. However, the script is flipped when you go upstairs and start examining midsections. Hunter's abs aren't good. We know that by now. They're very messy in terms of insertions, and again, he has a bloated lower stomach. And just like Hunter was waiting in the wings to claim his victory over Behrooz in the legs, Behrooz is now taking his victory over Hunter in the abs easily. They're deeply separated, more aesthetically pleasing, and even the obliques are better than Hunter's. So now what are we to do when each gentleman has won a crucial part in the abs and thighs? I think we should really take a look at who lost either component by a bigger margin. As I said, Hunter won the legs clearly, but it's not like Behrooz is a wheelchair competitor. He has a good detailed set of legs, but Hunter's are bigger while also being ripped. On the other hand, Hunter straight up lost the abs and thighs because his are actively bad. Behrooz' legs were below average to average when you account for everything. Hunter's abs are just all around very poor. Not to mention Behrooz wins the other smaller aspects of the pose like the upper body taper. So overall, I think Behrooz brings the best abs, and since he didn't drop the ball in the legs like Hunter did in the abs, he's more well-rounded and wins the pose. The most muscular is surprisingly fairly close. Behrooz is gnarly. This pick does not do him justice. Go take a look at him from other picks just from people in the audience. The amount of detail is out of this world. In terms of detail, he even beats someone like Hadi Chupin, which is insane to say. But detail isn't everything. It's a very important piece for the shot for sure, but obviously the most important part of the most muscular is the muscle. But hey, Behrooz is packing a lot of muscle. Straight away, I will say he loses the lower body clearly for several reasons we've said up until this point, but the upper body is a lot closer. Behrooz manages to bring all that detail while still looking full and filling out his frame. I'm actually really surprised with how much muscle Behrooz is actually bringing. I was impressed by that throughout the entire comparison. However, I think Hunter overall looks better in this pose. He just looks a bit more filled out. But that's about it in terms of what he's doing better than Behrooz. Hunter has the cool vascularity going on and a good amount of detail, but it doesn't hold a candle to how much detail Behrooz is bringing. So honestly, you could put Behrooz ahead here. I'm giving Hunter the slight edge though. I think he's filling out his frame a little bit more and is much further ahead in that aspect in the lower body. And sure, Behrooz is more detailed, but Hunter isn't lacking in detail. Hunter just happens to be going up against the most shredded guy in the pro circuit today. This is the most muscular, so I gotta give a little more weight to how much muscle an athlete is bringing. So to my surprise, this is actually a pretty narrow decision, but since Hunter is bringing more mass top to bottom, I am rewarding him the last pose of this comparison. A little side note here before we talk about who won. I made my own scorecard template so that way you guys don't have to visualize the scores whenever I talk about them. So yeah, I'll be using this from now on. Let me know if you have any suggestions on what needs to be added or improved. Anyway, if it wasn't obvious already, Behrooz won this comparison easily. He won 5 poses to Hunter's 3. But honestly, in Hunter's other 2 poses beside the side try, I was really gracious to him. I really could have seen the rear double going to Behrooz. I think the most muscular is a little bit more of a convincing win for Hunter, but there's still a solid case to be made for Behrooz on that one. The only pose I was 100% sold on Hunter in was the side try. So Behrooz' floor is actually 5 poses. He could have won as many as 6 or 7. So on paper, Behrooz absolutely dominated this comparison, and most of you guys did predict this. In a poll I put out before this video, almost 2/3 of you guys had Behrooz winning, and after this video, I gotta agree. I do think the margin would get a little bit closer between him and Hunter if they were on the same stage though, for a couple of reasons. One, the judges really seem to like Hunter's physique. It still blows my mind that he was able to beat Nick back in 2021, and even make a competitive at this year's Texas Pro with Andrew Jacked. Some may say that this is because of political reasons. His father is Lee Labrada after all, and Labrada Nutrition sponsors the Olympia and a few other shows. You can definitely make the argument for political bias, but at minimum you have to agree the judges like his physique for one reason or another. And the second main reason I think it'd be close has to do with the posing. Hunter's presentation is very good. He's very good on all the mandatories. I saw very few flaws with any of them, and he's good at posing in general. I guess that's what happens when your father is one of the best posers of all time. You kind of just pick up on it. Behrooz, on the other hand, has trouble hitting a lot of the mandatories. He moves way too much at times and shakes quite a bit. These things could definitely make these guys a lot more competitive, especially if they were on the biggest stage in the world together. But really, there would be so much ground Hunter would have to make up. Behrooz on paper is still winning 5 poses. Not just that, but Behrooz has exactly what the judges are looking for. We saw in the results across a couple divisions at this year's Olympia that the judges are rewarding shape above all else. I've been saying this a while now about the judging criteria. It seems that if conditioning and mass meet good enough status, then if an athlete has better shape, they're going to prevail over someone with better conditioning and more muscle, but poorer shape. And take a look at Behrooz' physique. His shape beats Hunter's clearly, but so does his condition. And hey, if Behrooz beat Hunter in poses like these side chests and almost beat him in the most muscular, that tells you that Behrooz is easily meeting the minimum requirement for muscularity. So Behrooz not only met the requirements for all three categories, shape, conditioning, and muscularity, but he actually beats Hunter in condition and the all-important shape category. So he's winning 2 out of the 3. With these final thoughts considered on top of the results of this comparison, I'm going to answer today's question, could Behrooz have placed top 6, with a resounding yes. And I am declaring him the winner of today's comparison. With that said, let me know if you guys want to see more comparisons with Behrooz. Funnily enough, I do believe Hunter should have placed a little higher at the Olympia this year because the 2 guys immediately in front of him, Andrew and Brandon, look notably worse than Hunter in my opinion. So I actually think if Behrooz can beat Hunter so easily, he should be able to do the same with Andrew and Brandon and place a little higher into this hypothetical lineup. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's going to do it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments how you saw this one, and definitely let me know if you guys want me to do a follow-up video with Behrooz against Andrew and or Brandon. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more. With all that said, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.